Before the story of wandering began, the land of Egypt echoed with the cries of an oppressed people. The Israelites, once honored because of Joseph, had become prisoners of chains and slaves to a merciless Pharaoh. Their hands were cracked by labor, their backs scarred by whips. Their voices whispered a desperate hope. When will God remember us? Among these oppressed souls, destiny was being shaped quietly, somewhere unseen. A baby's cry carried the promise of deliverance, although no one yet understood how much suffering and struggle would accompany that promise. The desert journey that would reshape an entire nation was already in motion. 1. Born for a purpose. The decree of death had spread across the Hebrew households like fire. Pharaoh demanded that every newborn Hebrew boy be killed. Amid this terror, a mother placed her infant, Moses, in a small woven basket. She pushed him gently into the Nile, trusting God more than the waters. The river carried him to the palace that had sworn his doom. But God has a way of turning oppression into opportunity. Pharaoh's daughter discovered the infant and adopted Moses, raising him inside the very palace that sought to destroy his people. The gold ceilings, the marble floors, the army drills, the royal tutors, all shaped Moses into a man who understood power, leadership, discipline, but also injustice. He lived between two worlds, Hebrew by birth, Egyptian by upbringing, chosen by God. 2. The awakening in Moses' heart years passed. Moses grew into a strong, intelligent, respected man. Yet something inside him remained restless. He saw his people suffering, the Israelites bent under the sun, their hands blistered from brick-making. One day, unable to bear it any longer, Moses intervened when he saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. In a moment of anger and justice, Moses killed the Egyptian. Fear spread through the palace. Pharaoh sought Moses' life. Moses fled into the desert, alone, exhausted, ashamed, running from his past and unaware that he was actually running toward his destiny. 3. The burning bush. A call that cannot be refused. In the barren wilderness of Midian, Moses became a shepherd. 40 years passed. The prince of Egypt became a man of the desert. It was here that God finally confronted him. On Mount Horeb, Moses saw a strange sight, a bush engulfed in flames yet never burning out. It glowed with supernatural fire. God called him by name. "Moses, Moses!" Moses trembled. "Take off your sandals. You are standing on holy ground." And then came the divine commission, one that Moses felt unworthy to accept. "Go. I am sending you to Pharaoh. Bring my people out of Egypt." Moses hesitated, questioned, doubted, feared. But God promised his presence, his power, and his guidance. And so Moses returned to Egypt, not as a fugitive, but as God's chosen instrument. 4. Pharaoh's defiance and the power of God. Moses and Aaron stood before Pharaoh with a message simple yet terrifying. "Let my people go." Pharaoh laughed. He hardened his heart, thinking himself a god. Then the plagues began. Waters turned to blood, frogs covered the land, darkness swallowed Egypt, disease, hail, locusts, death. Each plague shattered Egypt's pride and humiliated its gods. Finally, after the death of every Egyptian firstborn, Pharaoh broke. He allowed the Israelites to leave. But freedom was only the beginning. The wilderness was waiting. 5. The Red Sea miracle. As the Israelites journeyed toward freedom, Pharaoh changed his mind and sent his army to pursue them. The people panicked. They cried to Moses, regretting their freedom before it even began. Ahead of them, the Red Sea. Behind them, Pharaoh's chariots. God commanded Moses, "Raise your staff." Moses obeyed, and the waters split apart like curtains pulled by invisible hands. A path opened through the sea. Walls of water towered on both sides. The Israelites crossed safely. The Egyptian army followed, but the waters crashed back, swallowing them. For one night, faith overcame fear. For one nation, history changed forever. 6. Entering the wilderness of testing. The moment the Israelites stepped into the desert, their real journey began. Freedom tastes sweet only for a moment, then reality demands courage. The wilderness was harsh, dry, unforgiving. Days were scorching, nights freezing. Food was scarce, water rarer. God led them with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, a visible symbol that they were not alone. Yet the people complained constantly. Why did you bring us out here to die? We had food in Egypt. Life was better as slaves. Every challenge tested their faith and Moses' patience. 7. Manna from heaven, God's miracle of mercy. When hunger overwhelmed the Israelites, God responded with compassion. Each morning, thin flakes appeared on the desert ground. It was unlike anything they had ever seen. Manna, they called it, bread from heaven. It tasted like honey and sustained millions of people for decades. But God gave it daily to teach them trust, not greed. Those who hoarded it found it spoiled. Those who gathered humbly found enough. The desert was turning slaves into a nation learning dependence on God. 8. Water from the rock. When the impossible becomes real at Rephidim, the people faced severe thirst. Children cried. Cattle collapsed. They accused Moses. Why did you bring us here? God told Moses to strike a rock. With one hit of his staff, water burst forth like a river, a miracle in the middle of nothingness. The desert, once again, witnessed the power of God. 9. Mount Sinai, lightning, fire, and the voice of God. Mount Sinai became the spiritual center of the journey. The sky roared. The mountain trembled. Smoke and fire covered the peak. Moses climbed alone into this terrifying presence. For 40 days he remained with God. Here he received the 10 Commandments, laws that would shape humanity forever. But below, impatience consumed the Israelites. They built a golden calf and called it their God. Moses descended, saw their rebellion, and smashed the stone tablets in grief and anger. It was the greatest spiritual betrayal in their history. Yet God, in his mercy, renewed his covenant after Moses interceded. 10. The long years of testing begin. The Israelites approached the border of the Promised Land, but fear defeated faith. 12 spies went into Canaan. Only 2 believed. The people refused to enter the land. Their fear declared God weak. So God declared a consequence. This generation would not enter the Promised Land. They would wander 40 years until a new generation rose, one strong enough to trust God. 11. The wilderness routine. A generation being forged, the 40-year journey was not aimless. It was training. A nation of slaves was being transformed into a nation of warriors. The desert became a classroom. They learned discipline. They learned trust. They learned patience. They learned courage. God remained faithful. Manna continued. The rock followed them with water. The cloud and fire never left. 12. Moses, the leader who carried the weight of a nation. Moses aged. His beard grayed, his shoulders bent, but his spirit remained strong. He faced constant complaints, rebellions, doubts, and battles. Yet he prayed for his people, guided them, settled disputes, listened to their fears, and cried to God on their behalf. He was more than a leader, he was a father figure. 13. The bronze serpent, healing from above. When the Israelites sinned again, venomous snakes struck the camp. People died. They begged Moses for help. God instructed, "Make a bronze serpent and raise it high. Whoever looks at it will live." It was not magic, it was faith, a symbol pointing to a greater salvation yet to come. 14. Near the Promised Land, a new generation rises. After decades of wandering, the old generation faded. A new generation, strong, disciplined, battle-ready, stood prepared. They had not known Egypt. They had known only God's presence. They were ready. 15. Moses' final moments. The last blessing. God allowed Moses to climb Mount Nebo. From the peak, he saw the promised land stretching like a green jewel beyond the desert. He smiled, not with regret, but with fulfillment. He had done what God commanded. He blessed the tribes one final time. Then Moses, servant of God, closed his eyes. His journey ended where his people's destiny was about to begin. Conclusion. A legacy that would never die. The story of Moses is more than history. It is a mirror of every soul's journey. From slavery to freedom, from fear to faith, from doubt to trust, from wandering to purpose. The wilderness was not punishment, it was transformation. God used hardship to build a nation that would shine his light in the world. And the legacy of Moses lives on as the greatest journey of faith ever recorded.